You have just entered the extreme hypothetical zone. Imagine a young scientist, brilliant but controversial, develops a groundbreaking drug, a temporary vasectomy solution that renders all males unable to impregnate women. In a radical move, he distributes this drug into America's water supply, affecting the entire male population. The catch? The only way to reverse this drug's effects is through an antidote, sold exclusively by the scientist for $10,000. Not only that, but to access the antidote, men must be married and prove their serious intentions to raise children in a two-parent household. This dystopian scenario would have profound social, economic and cultural impacts on American society. Let's explore how this hypothetical situation might play out and its potential consequences. Immediate social implications. Outrage and protests. The moment people realize what has happened, outrage would spread like wildfire. Men, now stripped of their reproductive agency without consent, would likely stage protests across the country. The imposition of a costly antidote, combined with the requirement to be married, would be seen as a violation of fundamental rights and personal freedoms. Women, too, would voice their concerns as the entire framework of family planning would be upended. Civil liberties organizations, feminist groups, and even conservative family values advocates might find themselves in unusual alignment, all fighting against the forced reproductive control imposed by one man's scientific solution. Lawsuits would be filed against the scientist, calling for criminal charges and legal action to reverse the effects of the drug immediately. The end of casual relationships. One immediate impact would be the collapse of casual relationships and hookup culture. Without the risk of pregnancy, some might initially view this situation as liberating, believing they can engage in intimacy without consequence. However, as it becomes clear that the ability to have children is only available to those who pay $10,000 and commit to a two-parent household, social dynamics could shift dramatically. Marriage rates might surge as couples realize that having children outside of wedlock is no longer an option. Alternatively, individuals may delay or avoid relationships entirely, knowing the high financial and moral cost attached to parenthood. At $10,000 per antidote, the reversal of the vasectomy drug would be a privilege for the wealthy. This would introduce a class-based reproductive system where only those with significant financial means could afford to have children. Lower-income individuals, even if they desired children, would be left out of the equation, further amplifying economic inequality. Moreover, the marriage requirement to access the antidote would marginalize single-parent families, LGBTQ+ couples, and individuals who do not conform to traditional two-parent household models. For those who cannot afford the antidote, the desire for children might lead to black market solutions or desperate attempts to bypass the system, potentially leading to dangerous consequences. As access to reproduction becomes heavily restricted, America's birth rate would plummet, causing a rapid decline in population growth. With fewer children being born, society would experience a shift toward an aging population. Economic concerns would arise as the labor force shrinks and the burden on social services and healthcare systems increases. Fewer young people would mean fewer workers contributing to social security and other public services, straining the government's ability to support an aging demographic. As access to reproduction becomes heavily restricted, America's birth rate would plummet, causing a rapid decline in population growth. With fewer children being born, society would experience a shift toward an aging population. Economic concerns would arise as the labor force shrinks and the burden on social services and healthcare systems increases. Fewer young people would mean fewer workers contributing to social security and other public services, straining the government's ability to support an aging demographic. With the only route to parenthood now tied to marriage and a financial commitment, societal norms around relationships would likely evolve. Marriage might become less of a romantic choice and more of a strategic decision for those who want to have children. This could create a cultural shift where marriage is seen primarily as a means of survival for family building rather than a personal or emotional commitment. Additionally, the focus on a two-parent household as the requirement for parenthood might reinforce traditional family structures, but at the cost of marginalizing alternative family models. LGBTQ+ couples, single parents and others who don't fit the traditional mold would face systemic barriers to having children. This could ignite debates around what it means to be a family and whether the scientists' moral imposition on reproduction reflects outdated societal values. For men, the loss of reproductive agency, particularly when forced upon them, could have profound psychological effects. Feelings of helplessness, anxiety, and anger might become widespread, particularly among those who feel they've been unfairly denied the chance to father children without paying a steep price. For women, the sudden removal of reproductive choice, since male infertility would prevent pregnancy without consent, could lead to a greater emphasis on finding partners who can afford to reverse the effects of the drug. This forced control over such an intimate aspect of life could foster widespread disillusionment with the government, science, and societal structures, leading to long-lasting trust issues and resentment. As access to the antidote becomes increasingly restricted to the wealthy, a black market for parenthood could emerge. Unregulated, dangerous versions of the antidote might be sold for lower prices, leading to health risks for those who attempt to bypass the system. Fertility tourism might also become a trend, with individuals traveling to countries where the drug's effects aren't present to conceive children. As access to the antidote becomes increasingly restricted to the wealthy, a black market for parenthood could emerge. Unregulated, dangerous versions of the antidote might be sold for lower prices, leading to health risks for those who attempt to bypass the system. Fertility tourism might also become a trend, with individuals traveling to countries where the drug's effects aren't present to conceive children. The requirement to pay $10,000 for the antidote would create a new form of elitism, where only those who can afford it can become parents. This might create a cultural divide, where being a parent is not just a natural part of life, but a marker of status and privilege. Parenthood would become a luxury, accessible only to those deemed worthy based on financial means and adherence to traditional family values. In response to the draconian measures, resistance movements could form, seeking to challenge the power of the scientist and his control over reproduction. Activists might work to find alternative solutions, developing counter-scientific methods to reverse the drug's effects or creating organized protests demanding government intervention. The scientist could become a symbol of control and repression, sparking debates over personal liberty, government regulation, and the limits of scientific power. This might even lead to an ideological split in society, with factions forming around reproductive rights and the role of science in personal life. In this hypothetical scenario, the young scientist's vasectomy drug would have profound and far-reaching effects on American society. From economic inequality to cultural and psychological shifts, the consequences of tying reproduction to financial means and traditional family structures would reshape the fabric of life. While the scenario is extreme, it serves as a thought experiment on the ethics of reproductive control, the power of science, and the delicate balance between personal freedom and societal norms.